Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are, whoever you are, and welcome once again to Anime Octane, the show in which we talk about a recent piece of animated, anime. I was going to say animated content, but it is specifically anime. And we look at it in depth. So this is a spoilery show for those people who are just joining us, and we'll get to you and say hello in just a minute. But we will be spoiling this week's topic, which is Demon Slayer Mugen Train, the movie, or Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba, the movie Mugen Train, which
Good
is,
job.
thank you, which is the full title in English, which I think is even longer than the full title in Japanese. Um, but anyway, it was released in the United States in a limited run in the spring, and it is, I believe, the biggest animated movie ever in Japan. It's huge. It's an enormously popular movie, and it just dropped on Funimation. If you have an account of that, and we do, last week.
Now,
Um,
if I may ask, is it also is the series also very big in Japan?
yes, and the manga is huge.
Hmm.
Um, the manga actually has won its popularity slot on or did back when it was still being released. In some cases, for like a run of 7 out of 9 consecutive weeks. It's just enormously popular. Anyway, I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor in chief of Nerd Caliber, first person shooter on Facebook as a cosplay photographer, Burley underscore adopter on Twitter, as a tech journalist and other things. I'm going to apologize for any background noise you folks can hear, but it is still the upper 90s here, even right smack dab on the coast in New England, and I know it's still in the 80s inland or 90s inland. So I've got my air conditioning running and a fan or two.
Hmm.
So whiny me. We're in a heat wave. At least we're not out west.
Hmm.
And best wishes to everybody out there dealing with the insane heat wave that's going on out there right now, even all the way up into the Pacific Northwest, which just doesn't happen.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Joining me tonight is the guy that started this entire Nerd Caliber shindig. Manny, introduce yourself if you would.
I am the person that you could blame for this. My name is Manny Ortiz. I am the founder of Nerd Caliber and co-owner alongside with my man Rodney Brown.
And what we do, first what we'll do is we'll say hello. DW from way back. Sup? Viv, live during my school. Wow. Sorry, Viv. Love to be able to satisfy every time zone, but, you know, some of them we're just not going to be able to do anything about. This will be up for a long time, as are all of our other live shows, and all of our content that we've gathered at cons and other places on our channel. So feel free to enjoy that when you're out of school. Don't watch
What?
this at school.
Wait. It's 8 o'clock now. It'll be 5 o'clock in the Pacific. I wonder where they're chatting from.
It could be night school. First off,
Oh, yeah,
you
true,
don't know
true.
that. It could be Hawaii.
Hmm?
Could be Japan. You never know.
True, true.
Part of Too Many Fandoms. Welcome yourself. Kane Robles. I'm going to say Kane as opposed to Kane. Hi, and welcome to the show. Once again, folks, we will be spoiling Mugen Train. If you haven't seen it and you don't want spoilers, I would suggest that you find something else to watch. But otherwise, hang in there. Let us know what you think about our opinions of this particular movie and your own opinions of this and how it relates to other things. So, to start off with, we always talk about where it came from. Demon Slayer Mugen Train is a movie that is a continuation of the first season of the anime Demon Slayer or Kimetsu no Yaiba. It is directly a continuation of the anime, unlike a lot of other movies from other animated products where it's a standalone story. The My Hero Academia stuff, for example. This is what's known as the Infinity Train or Mugen Train arc from the manga turned into a 4 episode arc or 1 2 hour movie. Um, and it takes place immediately after the end of the last episode of the first season. The first season was 26 episodes. It was a full two-core season. Spring, they skipped the summer, and then it ended fall of 2019. It is based on a manga that ran for 207 chapters, starting in 2016, ended in May of 2020, so it's all done.
Hmm.
So there will be a wrap up of the series at some point as well, I would assume, unless they get some sort of license to write more stuff. But then they actually have to have somebody create the stories. And while they do have people who write these anime episodes, they don't invent them whole cloth when they're doing adaptations. Except for sometimes where they've actually literally had to do filler stuff where manga had not yet caught up with anime production. From what I understand, Bleach was notorious for that. Not a Bleach fan. I have no idea. That's what I've heard. One little bit of trivia, which I haven't been able to verify, but I'll take this as true just because it makes so much sense. It's called Mugen Train in English, but it was called Infinity Train, or the translation was Infinity Train in the Japanese release, and it was changed in the English release so people would not be confused with the wonderful Hulu series Infinity Train.
Hulu, or you mean HBO Max?
HBO Max. My bad. I can't remember what streaming service. By the way, we reviewed that on a full fat spoiler chat. It was about a year ago, maybe.
Yeah, that was one of our first ones.
Yeah. So quite a while ago. So that's in the YouTube video library. Go ahead and check it out if you want. It's a really cool series, very innovative, creative, with fantastic voice acting. Like surprising powerhouse live action actors doing wonderful voice acting. But anyway, that's not what this is. That's pretty much the summation of it. And we're going to jump right into Zhao. Welcome to the show. This is quite interesting. Thank you. We haven't really said much of anything yet, other than a little bit of background about where the movie comes from, but I'm glad you like it. And again, spoiler warning, we're going to be spoiling the movie. So if you've seen it, great. If not, you might want to turn on to something else. So we start, as we always do, with things we like. We move into things we didn't like, and then we wrap up with messages, themes, what this is trying to tell us, and overall impressions, and so on. So first off, Manny, before we jump right into, what did you like, what worked for you, what did they shoot for and actually hit, tell us a little bit about your experience with this, because as you said, unlike me, I've seen the whole series, and you haven't, correct?
Nope, I have not seen the series. So disclaimer to everyone out there that's hearing this review for myself. I have not watched the series. I am familiar with it just from the number of interviews with cosplayers that have cosplayed from that series, and they kind of filming in a little bit of what's going on and who the characters are. I will say probably I guess hand in hand, it's like to me they're equal. The level of action is fantastic, and the graphics is fantastic. People have told me that I need to watch this because just for the fight scenes alone, the use of watercolor style that's they described it for their powers, and like, okay, I see what they mean. It's fantastic. That was a joy to watch. At this point I get tired of the Naruto fairy tale style of powers where they say a name of the power and then something happens. I feel like I've seen it all, but with this, it was actually, I felt like with the way they did the graphics, made it seem like almost like alive again. They made it new for me for the first time. So I thought that was fantastic. And again, fight scenes, the choreography, wow, that was well done. I was impressed. I was not let down at all at any of the fight scenes that I saw. The fight at the end with forgive me, I forgot the name of the master of
Rengoku.
the
I'm sorry. Now Rengoku.
yeah, the fight he had with that one of the higher tier demons. That fight was superb. That was great. That was like Star Wars meets good martial arts level fighting.
That was like prequel Star Wars martial arts choreography.
Yeah.
because the first series, as much as I love it,
Oh
the
yeah.
fight
No. No.
choreography was terrible.
Yeah.
You know,
No. If anyone likes the want to see a redo of the Obi-Wan Darth Vader thing, there's a great video of a fan made fight of it. It's fantastic. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll send you a link, Rodney. But going back to this, yeah, that's why those were the two main things I loved about it.
yeah. I got to agree 100%. So I've known about the animation quality of this since I've watched the series, UFO Table, and anybody from Japan who's watching this or has had heard interviews with people at that particular studio, please tell me, is it UFO Table, UFO Table, Ufotable? I mean, what? I'm going with UFO Table because UFO Table just sounds really silly, as does Ufotable. Um, so I've known how amazing the animation is, and one of the things that UFO Table does that nobody else does this well, as good as you know other studios can get close to this. Nobody composites CG with cell animation in a way that is as seamless as UFO Table. Um, and the series is amazing. The movie is just jaw-droppingly gorgeous, and it opens with the leader of the Hashira and two of his assistants, I think, walking through a cemetery, apparently paying respects at some grave sites, and the the cemetery grave sites and stones themselves are just amazingly well rendered, and then the light dappling through the leaves of the trees, the shadows across their 2D cell drawn faces. I mean, right out of the gate, you just go, "Oh my god!" And then as soon as they show the train itself moving through its nighttime environment, I was just gobsmacked. It was just so gorgeous. They apply the extra money. Obviously, there's a bigger budget for a movie to some of the Sakuga in the fights, but that's always been their calling card in the series. That the Sakuga was in the series and is in the movie absolutely top tier. There are other shows that are close to it, or I would say in a different way, as good. The Sakuga in Jujutsu Kaisen is insane, but it's no better than in Demon Slayer, either the series or the movie. And Demon Slayer, as Manny pointed out, has that particular all of the breathing techniques and the special effects that happen around their attacks with their swords, whether it's a water technique or a flame technique or the lightning technique or whatever it is rendered in a traditional Japanese watercolor style effect that is also enhanced with CG. I smack my mic, I'm so excited. That it's just amazing. It's as Manny pointed out, it is so different. And that's one of the things that's amazing about it. There's not much else about this series that's particularly different. It's when you look at the plot and the story, and even the structure of it, it's kind of bog standard shonen supernatural action. Yet the characters are so wonderfully realized and rendered. They stick to their guns. I still hate Zenitsu. He's a whiny little turd. Yes, he's grown up a little bit, but my god, that kid needs to just be dope slapped hard a lot, repeatedly. And yet he is potentially the most powerful of all of the young demon slayers in this, of the trio. The trio that I used for the background of the teaser, Tanjiro with Nezuko in the box on his back, Inosuke, the boarhead in the middle, and of course Zenitsu, the whiny crybaby little snot in the orange kimono on the right. Um, and they let him be a little jerk. Now, the characterizations are so good. That helps elevate it above the sort of bog standard. Even the fact that Tanjiro is so empathetic to the many of the demons that he has to kill, and is willing to kill, even though he feels deeply for their plight. Mostly portrayed in the series, and this is one of the cool things about the movie. Well, this is the only way to describe this is it's both a complaint and a miss and a hit for me. I missed the fact that Tanjiro didn't, feel any empathy for either of the demons that are presented in this. He did for the children that wind up working for the dream demon Enmu. But not for the demons themselves. And that's kind of Tanjiro's calling card. And yet, I also loved it in that finally Tanjiro, there's only one other situation where he does this, and that's the three-part one demon that, basically kidnaps and eats young girls and draws them down into the mud swamp world that it makes. He absolutely straight up rage murders Enmu. Like, no sympathy whatsoever. Die fast, die in pain, die you scumbag. And it's so nice to see empathetic Tanjiro finally get that switch thrown, and yep, some of these things don't deserve your sympathy. And if and for Manny who hasn't seen the series, you don't know that Tanjiro, and it's one of the nice changes. That's one of the things that also elevates this above sort of bog standard. One, the way they do it, and because it's not the only time that, not wanting to hurt your enemies is, out there. Rurouni Kenshi, obviously with his reverse sword, is a good example of that. Except even he doesn't empathize and then still kill the way Tanjiro does. Tanjiro knows the demons have to go. There's no way around it. Even if at times he feels deep empathy for what turned them into demons. So I love that. I really love the characterization, and particularly even in this one where Tanjiro kind of gets his anger on. And particularly actually right up at the end where he throws his sword at Akaza's back. He's screaming in fury when he does it. Crying. He's so furious. And again, you wouldn't know that's really not Tanjiro's thing from most of the series. And we understand why. It makes 100%. So this is the big super duper spoiler, folks. Super duper big spoiler. If you really don't want this spoiled, and my God, is it a spoiler? Warning, warning, warning. Spoiler. Rengoku fights this demon. Well, okay.
Akaze?
Akaze.
Akaza, okay.
Akaza, yes. Rengoku, obviously. One of the Hashira, the flame Hashira, which kind of, you can tell, based on his, look and design. After they kill Enmu, the dream demon who puts everybody to sleep, and basically his plan is to eat everybody on the train while the demon slayers are asleep. The Rengoku has to fight Akaza, this demon. Enmu is a lower tier. I think he's lower moon number 1.
Enmu? Enmu, you mean?
Enmu, yeah.
Yeah. And Akaza is Upper Moon 3.
Upper Moon 3. So he is one of the top tier demons, number 3 in the top tier demon class. And he shows up because apparently part of what of Enmu's mission was to kill Tanjiro. Because his boss, whose name I can't remember, but I call him Michael Jackson because of the way he dresses. Everybody does. His boss, the top demon, knows that Tanjiro has the potential to do serious harm if he's allowed to get as powerful as he can be. So Akaza shows up and says, well, now it's my turn. And Rengoku and Akaza fight, as Manny said, in one of the most amazing animated fights ever put into animation. And it comes really, really, really close to Rengoku winning the day, except he doesn't. He ultimately dies. And the most badass thing I've seen in anime in a long time is Rengoku grabbing Akaza's hand so that he can't escape, and while Akaza's other arm is literally punched through Rengoku's torso, he clenches onto it with his abdominal muscles so strong that Akaza can't escape, and as wounded as he is, clearly dying, Rengoku almost cuts his head off. The only thing that saves Akaza, and again, spoilers. Muzan, do you mean Muzan? Zhao, we are talking about Mugen Train? So I'm not sure what you mean by Muzan. But feel free to let us know. Akaza only escapes by literally ripping his own arms off. Now, he can regenerate almost instantly, so that's not a big problem for him, but, and then the sun is coming up, and, of course, demons can't exist in the sun, so he flees into the woods, and that's when Tanjiro, who had been almost mortally wounded himself, just barely able to keep himself from bleeding out internally by using the stuff that he had learned in the end of the season, gets up and, screaming that Akaza is a coward for running away from a fight, and throws his sword like 100 yards into the woods and just spears Akaza, which doesn't, it shocks him and surprises him. It doesn't do anything to him, really. He still escapes. But then you get one of the most tear-inducing, beautiful death scenes. You can count stellar death scenes, on the fingers of one hand. You've got Spock's in the Wrath of Khan. Thank you. I'm sure there's others I can place. Oh yes, Muzan Kibutsuji. Yes, thank you, Zhao. That's his name, Michael Jackson. Yeah. Muzan, yes, Muzan the Demon Lord. Whose very touch can turn people into demons, and is responsible for turning Nezuko into the demon that she is. So that death scene is, I'm sorry folks, it's tear-inducing. It is beautiful, it is tragic, it's allowed to be both. It plays out in a way that very little in shonen anime is allowed to play out with that kind of emotion. And it's absolutely fantastic. Music is wonderful. Let's see what else is really outstanding about it. Just Bunny Nezuko is just like the cutest thing in the world. When Inosuke, so they're all put to sleep by Enmu, including all of the Demon Slayers, and each of them are sort of having a dream that is so good that the idea is that it's going to keep them in the dream until these children are able to get into their dreams, find their souls, basically their spirit cores, and kill them, destroy them. And it turns out that all the demon slayers, their spirit cores are so powerful that they can't. Or in Tanjiro's case, so beautiful that the kid who's sent in to do it just breaks down and can't do it. But in Nosuke's, his Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Nezuko as his retinue, his servants, his whatever. He's the king, and they're his subjects, and they're exploring. His world is sort of a beast cave, underground sort of dream world. But they're all animals, or humanoid animals. And Nezuko is a bunny. And not like a bunny girl in a bunny girl outfit. I mean, she's still wearing her normal kimono, although it's a little shorter, I think. But it's just so stupidly cute. It's amazing. Actually, all of them are really cute. I think Zenitsu was like a tanuki, a raccoon. But yeah, there are a lot of things to like about this. If you like Demon Slayer, the series, you will love this movie. It has everything that you like about the series. It doesn't have some of the things that drag the series down. As much as I love the empathy that Tanjiro exhibits with most of the demons that when he ultimately learns about how they became what they are, those backstories for the demons kind of slow the series down. You get none of that here. These are demons that deserve to die, and it's all about the fights against them. You get a lot of backstory about the characters, particularly Rengoku. You get an awful lot of backstory about where he came from, which makes his, again, huge super spoiler, his death ultimately the more disturbing and painful. We're getting all this backstory. It's almost like Rengoku is taking the place of one of the demons that Tanjiro has to kill. He's the backstory that we get so that we empathize with that character, and then he dies. But yeah, so those are my top favorite things. Is it the best anime movie? No. But I guess we'll get into that as we wrap up. When we get into comparisons and things. So, Manny, what didn't you like about this? What didn't work for you? And what did they shoot at and you think they missed? And I'm going to try very hard not to be that's because the series did this, Because there are people out there who probably haven't seen the series and want to watch the movie as well.
Yeah, and again, I want to say again, in case for those anyone tuning in, that I haven't watched the series yet of Demon Slayer. Again, almost my knowledge has come from now this movie, but also previously cosplayers that I talked to and interviewed in the past. To me the weakest thing, and I say that I had to put that on parentheses, weak, because it's not. It's for the faults the movie has, I don't think there's a lot like great faults, but the main thing about this movie that I think will turn off a lot of people, that if you haven't watched Demon Slayer, this movie is not going to help you understand that series at all. It doesn't really give you how some movies, standalone movies, tend to give you like a quick background information, usually within the first 5 minutes. None of that here. You can sort of piece it together as the series goes on, as the movie goes on, of what's happened previously, but it's not newbie friendly at all. I was able to piece things together, but it's this movie. Most standalone movies tend to have a long story arc of some sort. This one did not feel that way. It felt like 3 episodes merged into one. You could have cut each of them in a half an hour's time, and they could have been individual episodes. So it was strange, because it's as the first half hour of the movie was going on, I was like, oh, this seems like it's close to ending. What time is it? And it sort of ended, but then it changed into something else. It's like, okay, all right, but again, and then the last part are to me is the most drastic, the most different. Because suddenly you got the appearance of Akaza out of nowhere and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna destroy you guys," and then it just again fantastic fight scenes, but like again, unless you watch the series, I the plot seems like
Yeah.
like these like it just it, not like to me like I didn't know almost like what's the point? It's that it felt like or it did feel like it was part of a series that I happened to tune in randomly to check out.
And realistically, that's exactly what it is. It is a movie version of what would otherwise have been episodes 27, 28, 29, and 30.
Hmm.
Now, um,
Besides that, Enmu. Okay, let me get this straight. These demon slayers have been a pain to your boss for a long time. You got them. They're asleep. They're not able to wake up voluntarily. You don't kill them. You just want to torture them slowly. Oh, but you have the power to have things come out of the train and destroy them. I
okay,
don't feel like.
so this is where I think you might have missed something, and this I don't think this has anything to do with information from the previous series. Um, they are so tough that attacking them and attempting to kill them, unless you like literally rip them completely apart, probably isn't going to do it. That it'll wake them up, particularly Rengoku.
Hmm.
And if Rengoku is awake, game over. Um, so his plan was to get into their spirit cores, or into their souls essentially, and destroy their spirit cores, which would obviously completely destroy them. That would be the end of them. And he just didn't realize that once you're that level of training as a well, first off, once you're the kind of person who can become a demon slayer, and then you are at that level of training that your spirit core is essentially unassailable.
I
Um,
understand that. But I don't know. I felt like.
Now they may not have, they didn't present that terribly well, I guess.
Hmm. But again, that's just a little thing. I was like, oh, could it? The story, the dream, the first story arc, I guess I'll call it the first half hour, the story of them being in dreams and seeing their heart's desire and having really to tear themselves up literally in order to get out of it is very similar to The Man Who Has Everything by Alan Moore and the Superman story, where
Yeah.
very similar thing. So that didn't. I think of all the stories that engaged me the less, just because I felt like, okay, this is how they're gonna get out of it because I've seen this in the comic book before. But that's just tiny quibbles, really.
Yeah.
It's really what I think the worst thing about it is just that it's not newbie friendly.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is absolutely true. You can't just jump into this and expect to understand what's going on. You can jump into it and just enjoy like some of the most amazing anime fight scenes ever, and they don't need any deeper context to the overall story for you to enjoy that and understand that. It will just add to your pleasure and your understanding of how impactful these fights are to their futures. If you know where Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu are in the level of their training, what their relationship is with Hashira and everybody else, what the Hashira's relationship is with Nezuko, and so on. So I guess it's okay. I've been doing this for the last 3 shows. Let's see if yeah, that'll work too. You know what? I'm gonna switch over to look. That's the actual Anime Octane screen. I've had it on full fat spoiler chat for the last half an hour. Um, the screen as opposed to the Anime Octane screen.
Oh,
Explain what I was just doing. Although the full fat spoiler chat has the word spoilers across the top, so that's a bonus for everybody. Um, so as far as anything that I can say about what I didn't like about it, um, I don't think there was really anything I didn't like. I thought that because it was it was a little too, what's the word I'm looking for? each arc was too short.
Hmm.
Now, if they were doing this in like the series, this might have been half of a season. Like the first dream fight might have been 2 episodes. You know, the next fight as Enmu has taken over the train entirely might have been 2 episodes, and the final, encounter with Akaza might have been 2 episodes. You know, it could have been literally half a season, and you would have gotten, more of the story and a deeper understanding again of what is going on with all of their characters, their internal workings, and so on. That isn't a big knock at it because again, it's still wonderful. And if you have watched the series, you can fill in all of that information yourself based on what you know from what's gone on in the past. But I don't think it would have been bad to make this 6 episodes of season 2 as opposed to one standalone movie. Is there anything else I didn't particularly care about it? Not really, but again, it's just a matter of like the kids that Enmu is using. It seemed almost like, as Manny pointed out, why would you do that if you can just knock them all out and then attack them? And I'm sure he could have figured out a way to attack them that would have destroyed them badly enough that he could have himself gotten into their spirits and destroyed their soul cores, or their souls and destroyed the spirit cores, or however they phrased it. Now maybe having kids doing it all at the same time means that ideally you kill all of them at the same time with, and he says this right out of the gate, I don't want to get my hands dirty. I want to, I'm basically says I'm a coward. I want to do this as, hands off and as far away from me as possible. So he does put that out there. That's apparently Enmu's style.
Enmu does pontificate a lot in this movie. Ugh.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is another knock. When Akaza, presents some of the things that he has to say, it's pretty vital to the start of the fight, or throughout the course of the fight. Enmu is just he monologues, as Syndrome would say. He loves to monologue, and yeah, that does get a little tiring. It was like, okay, yeah, so you're explaining how you're doing this. I get it, and, let's get on to it and do it. But again, those are the few knocks that I have against it. It's pretty amazing. So Manny, I can't imagine that a show with this kind of an ending doesn't have a pretty strong message or theme in your mind. But does it? And if it does, what is it?
Again, it's hard to say because again, it felt like you're watching the middle of a season, or obviously it was or between seasons of a continuing storyline. But family is important. Your friends are important. Save the innocent if you can, if at all costs. That's a very interesting thing. I've noticed a few times where, especially with what's the name, the boar person, yeah. He kept saying, "Oh, they deserve to die," or like, "Oh, they're in the way," or something like that. And the emphasis of keeping them alive I've noticed that a few times in this so far. I think that's pretty much it. This family is important.
Yeah. I think that's true. I also think that a strong message is move forward no matter what. Basically, Rengoku tells that in his dying words to Tanjiro. Keep growing. Keep don't let this stop you. And I think that's important. But also, it's very clear that in the 2 dream sequences, Inosuke and Zenitsu's are comedy sequences. They both of their dreams are well, particularly Zenitsu's is to have a human Nezuko be his girlfriend. But even Inosuke's is a little like that. Nezuko is a little bit more important than Tanjiro or Zenitsu in his little fantasy human animal kingdom that he dreams up. But Tanjiro and Rengoku both dream about their families. And while Rengoku's difficulty with his family obviously doesn't rise to the level of Tanjiro's, where his entire family was slaughtered by demons, except for Nezuko, who was turned into a demon, it's still a pretty sad backstory, but also one with quite a bit of hope. And yeah, so that makes it very clear that family is important, and that's also one of the big messages of the entire series. Tanjiro is a demon slayer not just because his family was killed by demons and he wants to get revenge. His actual primary motivation is to get a cure for Nezuko. And he's pretty sure that Muzan, and again, thank you, Zhao, for correcting me, or filling in that name for me, is the only one who can get that for him. He turned her into a demon. In his mind, he has the power to turn her back. And so, yeah, family is hugely important in both the series and the movie. The overall tone is, while insanely sad, is pretty redemptive. Rengoku's death, while on the surface of it can seem to be completely meaningless, they don't defeat the other, they don't defeat Akaza, the other demon. He's left to, do more horrible damage, and I'm sure he will. There's no doubt he's going to show up again. But he also makes that a teaching moment for Tanjiro, to make sure that Tanjiro continues his journey and his growth as both a person and a demon slayer. And so in that sense, it's kind of upbeat and redemptive, even though it's terribly, terribly sad and tragic. And I think that's pretty much all I got for messages and themes out of it. Like all of Demon Slayer, it's got its funny moments, and so it's not all deep and dark and sad and painful. But it's a lot of that. So overall impressions, recommendations, and if you want a 1 to 10 scale.
Action wise, it was definitely like a 9.5. Recommendations, I would tell someone, no, watch the series first, and if you love the series, then you really will love this movie. It's definitely for fans of the show. Definitely recommend it, but again, definitely watch the series first, or you're gonna get kind of lost.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, is it the best animated movie? No, I think that standalone productions like A Silent Voice, like Your Name, and so on are I think clearly, I wouldn't say head and shoulders above this, but they are better, tighter, more integrated stories. Not by a ton. This is as tear-jerking and as heart-wrenching as A Silent Voice, in a different way, obviously. But I agree, 9 or 9.5 out of 10 for the Sakuga, for the action. The kind of rushed pacing in my mind pulls it back a little bit. So if you are familiar enough with the initial property to want to watch this because you've seen Demon Slayer, I'm gonna probably give it an 8. If you haven't, I'm not going to give it any number because, like Manny said, I can't recommend it. It's just not. so much of it is not going to make sense to you.
Hmm.
You know, watch the Sakaga fights on YouTube because I'm sure somebody's going to have put those up.
Yeah.
Um,
True.
so that is it, kids. That is Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, the movie Mugen Train. Stop it, people, please. Stop it with these names. This or tomorrow night, Nerd Week Live. I actually just dumped a bunch of stuff in there, so it's going to be a pretty packed show. Lots of really interesting news coming up. So if you want to catch up on a lot of the nerd news that dropped over the last week that you might not have heard, or we might be able to give you a little more context on, tomorrow night at 8:00, Nerd Week Live. Thursday, 8:00 is Full Fat Spoiler Chat, and it is MODOK. The Hulu Marvel series with Patton Oswalt, of all things, as the
Murder. Oh, I forgot what it stands for. MODOK.
mobile something device only for killing.
Mechanized organism designed
And
only for killing.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. So done by the people, done as sort of stop motion figurine animation by the people who did Robot Chicken. Yeah. So, and it's just been getting rave reviews. I can't wait to see it. And then next Monday is No Nerd Caliber, and our next No Nerd Caliber, this is the only one I don't have on the top of my head, is going to be about the topic of time travel movies or series. Our top 3 time travel movies or series. And I believe that's going to be in conjunction with that week. The Full Fat Spoiler Chat will be Tomorrow War. So we'll see you at one of those shows, hopefully, folks. In the meantime, before we give our big goodbyes, do please check out our Patreon, patreon.com/nerdcaliber. We'd love to have you as patrons. It is just a couple of tiers, both pretty low dollar. The idea is we would love to have you support us to do more shows like this. As cons are coming back, yay. We'll be getting out and we'll be starting producing more convention coverage like we haven't in a year and a half. So, every dollar that you can help us out with at Patreon will help us do more of that. So, Manny, wrap us up and give us a goodbye.
Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting us. Please keep commenting on our live chats. We really enjoy them. It gives us kind of a direction of where to go at times. So yeah, please be safe. Get your shots. Have a great day or night.
Mr. Krakowian, welcome back to the show. Perfect timing as often. Or I'm going to say that you've been lurking for the last hour and just now we're logging in to say hello and goodbye. So that's the way I'm going to take this. And yes, also bring back the cons. Well, they are coming back.
Yes.
So, please, people, in these heat waves, certainly here in the Northeast where, we don't like heat waves, but, you folks out in West, please stay safe. Stay hydrated. Do anything. If it means you have to go to an emergency shelter, go to an emergency shelter, please.
Yes. It's bad.
And please, if you haven't gotten vaccinated, please do get vaccinated. I don't know if you've been paying attention to this because you probably haven't, and the general news hasn't been throwing this out there like they did at the beginning or mostly through the pandemic here in the United States. But Sydney's in lockdown. Of course, Tokyo is currently in lockdown. The Delta variant is now the dominant variant and is tearing up Africa because they haven't had any vaccines because we haven't sent them any. The Delta variant is potentially going to be a 4th wave. So please get vaccinated, folks. While the vaccines are not as effective against the Delta variant as they are against, you know, the variant they were designed to. They are effective, and obviously way more effective than not having a vaccine. And the Delta variant is more deadly and it's more infectious. So when cons do come back, you know, you'll see me wearing a mask, just to be sure. Zhao, thank you. Zhao says that was fun, or this was fun. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed. And with that, again, I'm Rodney Brown, and thank you, folks. Good night.